This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Noe, Lance Barton. Real quick before we get started, as always, make sure you click like and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. Click the subscribe button on YouTube. Click the follow button on Spotify. Click the follow button, the plus button, whatever it is on Apple. Make sure you're following us on X at Always Talk Ball, on Instagram and TikTok at Always Talking Ball. We're putting out some good videos, some good clips. We love the interaction as always. So bring on the comments and the likes. Lance, let's get into some big games here. Sponsored by Branded Bills. Click the link in the episode description or click the QR code in the top right screen of the YouTube video. Lance is supporting his Another America. He's just the most patriotic podcaster out there, that's for sure. When you check out, you can get yourself an America hat. You can get yourself a Dad Life hat. Any colleges on there that you love, they're going to be on there. They're awesome. I just got an Indiana hat the other day. It's really nice. Type in the promo code branded15 for 15% off your first order. Again, click that QR code or click the link in the description of our episode. Let's start off with Texas A&M and Notre Dame, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Notre Dame comes in as around a 7-point favorite right now. Opened up at 6.5. It's up to 7. So people are actually liking the Irish coming off the bye week. Notre Dame is 1-2 in home openers under Marcus Freeman, with losses to Marshall and Northern Illinois. So not a great track record in those home openers. It's a must win for Notre Dame, in my opinion. I mean, you don't have a conference to play for. Obviously, they're not in a conference. You don't have a conference championship to play for. If you lose this game, you can reel off 10 wins and you can make the playoffs, but you're going to be, I'm afraid you might be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned it the last episode, man. I told you, I asked you if Notre Dame was to lose this game. What, we always say that, you got to go 10-2 in the Power 2 conferences, in the Big 2 conferences, in the Big 10 and the SEC. But you got to be 10-2 to really just, no matter what, to put yourself in that position. We've been saying that we think there might be some 9-3 teams this year that would have a chance to put themselves in position to make the playoff. But Notre Dame, I don't think, is one of those teams as far as 9-3 is concerned. But 10-2 with losses to A&M and to Miami. Obviously, we don't know what the rest of their schedule is going to look like. What the rest of those teams, like USC, could go on a run and be, some great team this year, and Notre Dame end up beating them later in the year, and they get in at 10-2. But yeah, I don't disagree, man. But it seems like this early in the year, it definitely seems like a must win game for Notre Dame. Just interesting, man, with a bye week like this, coming after one game, you go down to Miami, and a lot of people were questioning Mike Denbrock's play calling in that game. You ran the quarterback more, CJ Carr, who's not really a dual threat. They ran him more than they ran the best running back in the country, Jeremiah Love. So I'm assuming we're going to see Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price a little bit of a heavier load with them this week. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, you would think so. But I mean, A&M shown with their defense the first two games against UTSA and Utah State that they have allowed some big shot plays. So I think Denbrock, and he saw Carr's ability in that game against Miami to throw the ball deep down the field, especially in the second half when they had to open up it a little bit. But he threw a nice fade to Malachi Fields. Again, I think they're going to want to get Will Pauling, Jaden Greathouse involved because they had 0 combined catches between those two. So, yeah, A&M's defense was a little. I mean, they put up 40 points in those games, but they also gave up over 20 in both of those games to some subpar competition. What are your thoughts on Marcel Reed? Like, is he the type of quarterback? We saw him go on the road last year a couple times.
Yep.
Not perform well. He's going on the road at night in South Bend. And speaking of quarterbacks getting more carries, he's leading the A&M running backs. He's leading that team in carries, which is crazy because we said they might have the deepest room of running backs. I'm not sure why they're not giving them the majority of the load, but he's leading in attempts and carries and rushing yards.
Yeah, with his dual threat ability and Colin Klein's offense, he likes to run the quarterback, but I agree. I don't think that's going to be the recipe for success moving forward for the rest of the year for A&M, is for him to lead them in carries. But you're right. He had some road struggles at the end of last year. I mean, they got spanked at South Carolina. They got beat at Auburn. Both of those games were at night, like this one at Notre Dame. Notre Dame in a back against the wall, mentality type deal at night. You got to think that place is going to be rocking like we saw it in the playoff game against Indiana last year in that big game that they had. Uh, I I want to see as far as A&M's concerned, like we saw Miami like,
Yeah.
they were able to run the football, and they were able to kinda control the line of scrimmage from the offensive side of the ball for most of that game. In the 4th quarter, Notre Dame started to attack the line of scrimmage more. It seemed like they were getting a little bit more pressure. They were able to stop the running game more there in that 4th quarter against the Canes. But it's just kinda strange, man. Like, not strange, but it's kinda interesting that, when you talk about some of the best offensive lines in the country, this year going into the season, you would have A&M and you would have Miami as 2 of your, top 5 to 8
Mhm.
offensive lines in the country going into the season. Obviously, Notre Dame's got a great offensive line too. But yeah, I mean, I want to see Notre Dame be able to get a little bit more pressure. I was listening to Cole Kubelik and Greg McElroy here recently, and Kubelik was talking about that, like, so far, when Marcel Reed, when they're in a passing situation, and he has pressure on him. I mean, most quarterbacks aren't great under pressure. We all know that, but some are much better than others, and some are much worse than others. It definitely seems like Marcel Reed, up to this point, that when things start collapsing around him in the pocket, that obviously one of his number one things he wants to do is try to take off and run.
Yeah.
Uh, can Notre Dame keep him in the pocket and get him to the ground? Can they get pressure on him and keep him in the pocket and don't let him get outside the pocket and make a bunch of plays with his feet? And again, Notre Dame secondary, man, supposed to be one of the best in the country coming into this
Yep.
game. Obviously, we saw that freshman Malachi Tony give them a lot of problems. That really speedy, quick, and he's Malachi Tony is very fast, but he's more quick and than he is fast. Like his ability to get in and out of his breaks and to go 5 yards and cut left or cut right, and he's open like for that little split second. The quarterback knows it's going to get it to him. A&M has guys like that. A&M has guys like Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver who are burners, who are very quick, very fast. Terry Bussey, that as well. So that matchup with that wide receiver core, because early on, so far, I know it's not against competition like Notre Dame. A&M's wide receivers, man, they've they have absolutely lived up to the hype. Craver and Casey Concepcion have been really good these first 2 weeks. What's your thoughts on that matchup with A&M's wide receivers against the Notre Dame secondary?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, Craver and Concepcion both averaging over 16 yards per reception and
Yeah.
both have 3 touchdowns. And then you got guys like Terry Bussey, who, in the slot over the middle. So, yeah, I mean, it is something, if you're a Notre Dame fan, it's something to worry about, like something that Chris Ash and the defensive guys need to correct. I mean, you look at that game against Miami, and yeah, Tony lit him up a little bit, kind of got open for that touchdown. CJ Daniels had that ridiculous one-handed catch where if a Don Schuler just goes at CJ Daniels instead of trying to go for the pick,
Yeah.
obviously we don't get that catch. So it's just almost like a little bit of fundamental stuff. Playing at home, crowds in your favor, I think. I mean, what I'm really interested to see is the offensive line for Notre Dame because obviously they were in passing only situations there in the 4th quarter. Ruben Bain and those guys got after CJ Carr. Cassius Howell is having himself a really good first couple games for A&M. We know A&M, obviously they don't have Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner, but they've always got a good D line. Can Notre Dame's offensive line, I guess I'll say bounce back a little bit because it was a performance we weren't really expecting against Miami.
I agree, and that you just hit the nail on the head. That is the key to the game, in my opinion, for the Irish, is going to be that matchup with their offensive line. Can Texas A&M? I do think Notre Dame is going to try to run the football a little bit more in this one. I'll be shocked if Marcus Freeman does not something that he wants to try to establish early on. That just sets the tone, man, for the rest of your team. I mean, that was Notre Dame's MO last year. That physical presence of that offensive line and that run game that just again sets the tone for the rest of your team. That fires your defense up. That takes the other team's will when they can't stop the run. So I know A&M with Cassius Howell, like you said, they can get after the passer. Uh, I believe that they can get pressure on the quarterback, like not consistently, but like game in and game out. I do think that's something that Mike Elko can help dial up for Texas A&M is dial up some pressures. But I want to see how they hold up against this Notre Dame run game. And that fourth quarter last year in College Station, that was a difference in the game. Notre Dame took over that game, just lining up, playing big boy, grown ass man football, and running the rock against A&M in that fourth quarter. So both of these teams definitely need to be able to stop the run and try to make the other team's quarterback beat them. I'm fine with CJ Carr, man. Like I'm a believer. I was a believer in him before the season, but obviously there's that thing about like you got to watch him play first.
Mhm.
After you saw him go down to Miami on the road and how he handled himself there,
Yep.
never really seemed like he was in a panic. He never really seemed like he was some redshirt freshman making his first start ever. Like, do you feel confident that he's not going to be in this game and be rattled against Texas A&M?
Yeah, first 2 games against Miami and A&M, really tough games for a redshirt freshman quarterback. So I think coming out of this game, win or loss, I think Notre Dame fans should feel encouraged by him, and obviously I think the competition's only going to get easier going forward. We don't know what's going to happen, but in our minds, it's going to get easier going forward. You got Purdue on deck next week, so um, man, lines at 7 on this, totals at 49.5. Last year was 23-13. I think it's gonna be a little higher scoring than that. I don't think I just think that both teams are gonna be able to move the ball a little bit more. Last year was like 6-6 at halftime.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be opened up a little bit more. Dude, if I'm not gonna bet on this game at all. And if I were betting on it, I mean, I would take A&M +7 right now in a heartbeat. I can't bring myself to do it, but that's where I would lean would be A&M +7.
I'm with you. As of right now, it's not a best bet, but I'm close to getting there with it and taking the shot at the points with Texas A&M. Uh, and I agree with you. I do think there'll be some more points scored in this game. I do think both defenses are really freaking good. Again, both teams with great defensive minded coaches. Uh, I think they'll be buttoned up and dialed in defensively for the game. But I just think that year 2 in Colin Klein's system with the weapons that A&M has added and Marcel Reed now having more time. Obviously, Marcel Reed didn't play in that game last year,
Yeah.
first game of the year. His dual threat ability, I think, will open up a few more things. It's going to come down again, kind of like we talked about in that Ohio State Texas game. These games against these top tier teams that have really good defenses and defensive minded coaches. When you get in the red zone, can you get in the end zone as a defense? Can you make the other team kick field goals instead of giving up 6? Uh, I think too Notre Dame, they're more of because of CJ Carr. We already saw it in his first freaking start. They slinging around the yard with him a little bit there down in Miami. I think they definitely trust him. They trust that wide receiver core for Notre Dame. So I think you are going to see them throw the ball a little bit more than like we saw Notre Dame last year in some of those games. So I agree. I do think it warrants a little bit of more of a higher scoring type game than what we saw last year. Is it enough for me to sit here and bet the over at this moment? It's not. Uh, so at this moment in time, I'm gonna give my prediction on this game. I think Notre Dame wins, but I think Texas A&M covers.
Follow us on X at Always Talk Ball. We'll give out our bets on Saturday morning. Instagram, TikTok as well. We put out some clips of kind of just some clips from the show, some predictions, all that good stuff. YouTube, obviously, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. But yeah, these are pod bets. So we're going to keep track of these pod bets here and what our record is. And hopefully we continue our winning ways. We continue to hover above that 50% and we can make some money for you guys. So again, we appreciate you guys listening. For Lance Spartan, I'm Tyler Noe. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.